I am grateful for the time that I had and the opportunities that I had. I knew my limits, and I would like to try to work that style. I did the split ball punch. I think the split got me booked on 50% of the shows. I was the third time is the charm at the end. This guy's first language is Japanese, a little bit of English, and we were still able to put together this fun, captivating match. When I had lost every match for a full year in Limitless, I won a year's worth of match. I think he wanted to take it in a different direction. So he put us together. He's Dick, I'm the bartender, Whiskey Dick. Mark and I didn't just click, but we became very good friends. Well, the idea was pitched to me of just like, we drink a beer and we watch a match. I was a part of those stories that I had watched all throughout high school and college. I still enjoy telling the stories in a different way. Pandemic ruined me working.
Ladies and gentlemen, hosted by Coach C, Chris Sanders, this is Best for Business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. I'm so pumped for this one. Top Shelf Troy, thank you for joining me, and thank you for everything over these years.
Well, I'm glad that you started with that. I want to hijack this really quick. Thank you, Chris, for everything you've done for us wrestlers. For example, this
I love it
right here.
Yeah.
I kept it. Let's see. We have a date on this one.
Bottom left, I think.
January 13th of 2017.
Wow.
Coach C, not Chris Sanders,
Yeah.
drew Top Shelf Troy Nelson. And here's one. I like this one of me and Rich
Love it.
Paladino for Pro Wrestling. What? Wrestling has a tomorrow.
I was 12 years old when I did this, and now I'm 20 years old interviewing you. So seriously, thank you for everything.
No, trust me. We appreciate the people that are good fans and the people that, that's what makes people like you who wanted to be a part of the business and want to get involved. And obviously, how many episodes?
When this drops, it's over 100, like 102, I think, straight.
You are you have the gumption. You want to be a part of this, and I think that a lot of us are very happy to see.
I talk about
that much to be a part of it.
I appreciate. I tell my dad all the time. I might watch it like quarterly. That first What show holds up still to this day, and you were on the call for iconic show, and all the What shows still hold up.
A lot of those shows are really good, and it just I don't know what it was. Sunday shows I think can be tough. Football season can be tough in New England. That was back when the Pats were still, truly dominant force.
Yeah.
I think that sounds weird, but, I think that affected sometimes people getting in for some of those shows. And it's too bad because there was a lot of great stuff there. And, there was a good crowd there, but I think there could have been a lot more people that saw how great some of those shows were.
Yeah. I'm pumped to talk your career. So obviously I know from the Major Pod and Off the Hop Rope how much of a fan of pro wrestling you are, but I'm curious for you, what was it about wrestling that made you want to eventually get involved with it, and what are the steps you take?
So for me, it's interesting. A lot of kids really liked, superheroes and stuff growing up. Like I liked the Power Rangers a lot. I thought that was cool. I never saw it as like a superhero though, like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. Those weren't like, I wasn't into that. Like, I don't know why. I think I gravitated towards professional wrestling because they were real people up there, real good guys, real bad guys doing their thing. And I could resonate with that. And I think that for some reason, it just always stuck. My older brother is 12 years older than me. So if you're doing the math, I was a gift. Yes, a blessing.
Yeah.
But he was born in 1978. So he grew up with rock and wrestling in the 80s and into the early 90s. I ended up as a basically toddler, 3-4 years old, with his LJN figure. I had the Nikolai Volkov and the Hogan and the Savage. And I had the Tonka wrestling buddy of Hogan when I was a kid. And when my brother would watch it in the early 90s, I would sit and watch it with him. And I never let go. There were fads that came and went and stuff that I enjoyed. I'm a huge baseball fan, diehard Sox fan. I'm a New York Giants fan for football. I like my Bruins. I like my Celtics. I'm a little, I would say bandwagony, but I can't talk shop about hockey and basketball like I can, football and baseball to a degree. But wrestling was always number one.
Mm-hmm.
always. And that's the thing. For me, wanting to get involved with it, seeing that it never left my life as leading up to an adult, you start with the WWF at the time and WCW. Saturday night, of course, was a big deal for me growing up because it was on 6 o'clock to 8. I could stay and watch all of it as a kid. But then, like, once you become a teenager, and just like you, especially for me, ECW finishes up in 01. I always joke that I watched the last episode of ECW on TNN and didn't realize it was the last episode. So when I went to watch it a week later and it wasn't on, I was so disappointed.
Wow.
So it's like you go back as like an early teenager and you go start finding the DVDs that were available at your local shop. Those were like the ones that were like mass printed. But you're like, where are these other shows that, like, how come these weren't out on DVD? Because you find out about, you know, the websites that had them and stuff. Me and my buddy, my best friend, Mike Castano, we'd scour eBay and he'd buy the tapes and we'd sit and we'd go back and watch these shows that weren't like readily available. And we would like the pay-per-views and stuff. And we could not get enough. Translates well. We keep, you know, turn 12, 13. We see what NWA TNA is. And we started getting Wednesday night pay-per-views in the spring and summer of 2003. It had already been around for just about a year. But that's when we were seeing guys like New Jack, Sandman, Raven. It's like, oh, they're all over there. Let's see what this is. And that's when you find out about guys like Amazing Red. And you find out about guys like, you know, Kid Cash is still over there. But then you get Saban, Michael Shane. The fun one of me seeing the Spanish Fly for the first time, the Maximos.
Yeah.
Joe Maximo, of course, him and Angel Ortiz, my original trainers. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. So it was like that type of wrestling. And then you start seeing what international talent comes in and you want to start finding that. So you start trying to find tapes. You like get the pay-per-views, the Japanese hardcore pro wrestling pay-per-views. And in that turn, you're seeing Big Japan for the first time. You're seeing DDT for the first time as a team. So it's like, we could not get enough of it. Leads way to being 17, 18. You're old enough to really get out there. Your friends are driving, you're driving. You can go to indie shows. So we did. We started to get to go see those shows. I, of course, massive CHIKARA fan. Massive CHIKARA fan.
Yeah.
So it's like those were always top priority for me and my friend group. Always be like 8 of us getting tickets. We'd buy 8 tickets in advance. We'd go to those shows, and they would come around to like Tewksbury, they came to Nashua, New Hampshire, famously for an excellent show, unbelievable show, and it's just like we just couldn't get enough. I'd go to, obviously WWE shows up. You go to Dragon Gate USA at the Wonderland Ballroom in Revere. I used to have to beg, borrow, catch. I'd buy my, because like that was when I'd be like more deeper into college.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, I'll buy your ticket if you get us to Revere and back. I'd be buying people the ticket, like, all right, I'll take, because I'd have friends that weren't like in college that weren't really wrestling people.
Yeah.
It's a good show. I'll buy you a beer. I'll buy you a ticket. You drive me to Revere. You watch the show. We drive us back. I had people that did that so that I could see the shows, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be good. They'd come back, and then the next time they'd be like, you don't have to buy my ticket. I had a good time. We'll go and we'll do this thing. So by the time I graduated college, I knew I wanted to be a part of this business. Of course, I was in a lot better shape back when I was 22 in 2012 than I was obviously right now. But truth be told, what I had decided was I wanted to be a commentator.
Okay.
That I'm never going to look like John Cena. You know, I'm never going to look like Randy Orton. But I'm like, I want to commentate because I feel like that's not everyone wants to be the wrestler. Not everyone wants to be the commentator. I could sit and talk shop. I had the gift of gab, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I can do it. I don't think that's up for me to decide. I think other people need to tell me that I can do it. But I'm like, what's the best way to get into it? I actually remember emailing Gabe Sapolsky, actually, because like, you know, his email was readily available. He was looking for like interns for Evolve and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not trying to become a wrestler. I'm trying to become a commentator. And I don't know what the best way is to go about that. Like, I think I remember I was 21, 22. I didn't know any better. I'm just like, I know I can do this. How do I let someone else know I can do that?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know what to do. What? Yeah. How do I just walk in? Are they just like handing out commentary jobs at these shows? Obviously, you know, that's not.
Yeah.
how it works. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he just kind of had said in the email, it's like, it's one thing for you to tell me, like what I say, like that's great that you can tell me. You have no footage to show me. Like, just he's like, you have to go make connections in the business. Go try to see if you can help out at local shows and see what you can do to, get on board. So at the time, I was in much better shape, and I said to myself, I was living in New York. I was managing a bar in Manhattan at 22. Learned a lot of lessons then. And I said, well, what if it seems like it's almost easier to sign up to pro wrestling school than it would be to get a commentary gig almost.
Yeah.
So I looked at New York schools in the area and I said, like, I'm going to give this a try. It was a chance meeting with Steve Carino after a Final Battle Ring of Honor show in 2012. Well, it was him, Roderick Strong, Ernie Osiris, and Adam Cole were at my buddy's bar across the street. And he called me. He's like, hey, that guy you really liked on the show is here. Steve Carino. I'm like, oh, no way. He's like, come on over. It was a Sunday night after the Final Battle show. I went in to manage late.
Yeah.
Like, just come over and chat with these guys. So I came over, had a beer at the bar next door, and said, like, hey, if you guys want to come over for a drink at my place, I'll buy a round or two. Come on over. So they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is before they were like, Steve Carino.
Yeah.
He had been ECW champion years prior, but like Roderick Strong and Adam Cole were still indie guys. Ernie Osiris, I'd be on shows with years later. They were so nice, so kind, very funny. But I got a chance to talk shop with Steve Carino. I said, listen, I've been thinking about trying to get into wrestling school and see what I can do. I kind of want to commentate, but I think I might be good. I don't know. I just don't know. He's like, try it. He's like, people think that if you start something like this, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Try it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like it, you can stop. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, especially people like once you get late into the business, remember, like, yeah, you can stop this at any time. Like some people stay too long and just like, no, you can stop. So it's just like that mindset going into it is like, I have nothing to lose.
Nice.
And I said, I'm going to do it. So New York schools at the time, especially living in Manhattan, it was either House of Glory in a different part of Queens at the time, or Fighting Spirit Wrestling in Brooklyn, the Ludus Wrestling Academy.
Yeah.
So I went and met with Joel Maximo at this little, like, it was on like the second or third floor of just this building in Brooklyn. Sometimes it was run by a generator for like just to get light in that room.
Yeah.
And I just like, he took me to the ring. He's like, I'm going to let you take your first bump in this ring and you can tell me how you feel about it. So he told me, he literally walked me through it. I was like, only me and him at the time. His wife might have been there. And he showed me how to properly take a bump. And he's like, how's that? I was all right. He's like, what do you think? And I'm like, I'm in. So
wow.
I looked at the school. I had seen that, like, who the guys they have working for them. I saw Jorge Santi work for them. Jorge Santi, at that time, I had seen him get a Ring of Honor pre-show match at a show in Rhode Island.
Okay.
And I said, like, wow, he's like, I didn't know if he was like a product of Joel, but I knew he worked for Joel. I'm like, oh, it seems like this is up to snuff. And I saw all the other guys that they had. A guy named Talon was really good. He was a longtime guy for like the New York NYWC. Mike Verna started to come through a few months afterwards. So I trained with Mike Verna when we were both kind of coming up around that same time. And it just like, I started in January of 13. I said, I'm going to give this a try. I want to make connections so that I can commentate. But if I physically can do this now, I'm going to give it a shot. So I said, it was just that natural progression of just, I couldn't get enough of it to the point where I have to do it.
Wow. When you look at your career, you mentioned Angel Ortiz. So I'm curious, is there a lesson, whether it's him, Maximo, is there one specific lesson or something they said over and over to you that you still remember today?
I was going to say, specifically for Ortiz, it's about him and Mike Drastic, Mike Santana.
Yeah.
I was their guy when I was training there, just because at the time I was getting it, like the fundamentals of it at the time. I was really getting it. I always understood because I was very good friends and still unto this day with Max Smashmaster, Big Scott, in the Pro Wrestling Academy, childhood friend. My grandmother was his babysitter.
Wow.
I was even younger than him. So he always says, like, I wish I smothered you with a pillow when I first saw you when you were 3. Oh,
Yeah.
Um, but I knew what to look for, what's good and bad, and what to do and what not to do. He's like, here's some advice. Here's what you can do. I was very spoken to. You know, I knew how to respect the business before I got there. I didn't but anybody because I knew I was told not to. And just kind of, you know, watch for things you should watch for. If you don't want to be a part of something, it's like if you see, you know, laziness at a school, leave. If you see rampant drug use at a school, leave. He's like, just like, it's not the place for you. Go find somewhere else. I knew what to look for. So a guy like Ortiz, you know, already knew I understood the rules. You know what I mean? I a good egg to a degree, and they knew that they could take me along with them to shows and stuff and like help out with the ring. They weren't doing that with any of the other students at the time. And, you know, Ortiz just kind of said to me, he's like, don't change. Because he was still young in the business to a degree at that time too, in 2013 into 14. And he said to me, he's like, don't change. You're doing everything right. Don't get an ego. Like, just because I'm telling you you're doing everything right, do not change anything. The reason why you're well liked by all these people and different things is because you are doing everything right. And he's like, you know, your ring work, it's gonna get there, but attitude wise and personality wise, you know, you're doing everything right. So I think the best advice was to just be a normal person.
Nice.
Be yourself, as long as yourself is, you know, respectful. That's what I mean. How many times have you heard it, Chris? Pro wrestling is built on respect. And a lot of people say it, but I feel like sometimes they just say it because they know that's what they're supposed to say. But you actually have to do the respecting part.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that. I was always respectful. And I think that for someone with my body of work, which I think was to a degree limited, I got so many opportunities. I got big opportunities that, you know, I got because of my attitude and the way I carried myself and the way I treated others, genuinely.
Yeah. When you mention opportunities, do you remember for you personally what that first big opportunity in your career was?
So first big opportunity, first big opportunity. I mean, I'd say Limitless Wrestling was my first big opportunity because people just knew it and felt it was going to be special. So I'd already been a part of wrestling for over 2 years at that point. I had my first match in July of 13 against Joel Maximo. My first opponent changed like 4 times in the weekend because Joel didn't know who I was going to wrestle yet.
Yeah.
He was going to see it's going to be Johnny Miyagi, whose car broke down in Connecticut, who's my good friend Johnny Torres, who I work with on shows. If Shane Strickland, didn't have a show on the Saturday that I was going to have my first match because he had worked on the show the night before for Joel, he's like, hey, you around? I was going to wrestle Shane Strickland in my first match. If he was, all he had to say was like, yeah, I'm around. I was going to wrestle Shane Strickland. So Joel pulled himself out of a tag match because his brother couldn't make it anyways. And I wrestled Joel Maxwell in my first match. So that was my first real taste of like, holy cow.
Yeah.
We can do this. I can do this. I was carried to an 8-9 minute match with my trainer.
Nice.
Like learn to like, really like, here's how we're going to call things on the fly in front of, in an actual match with people watching to not fuck up. I just listened to everything he said.
Yeah.
But people always like, it's about as good as a first match as people can have. And I remember being like, I think that's a good thing. Like,
nice.
All these things to work on. But like, it was after that I got an opportunity to commentate the first time. So I don't know if I call it my first big opportunity, but a week after my first match, Logan Black and somebody who I really would rather not talk about got me an opportunity with Warriors of Wrestling to commentate their July show because they had been without commentary for a few months. They're like, hey, this is, a good egg. He's got to get the gab. So I'd argue that my first big opportunity was my first commentary opportunity because I needed footage.
Yeah.
I needed to have something to play. Like, hey, here, I can do this. So I became a Warriors of Wrestling commentator in Staten Island, New York for 2 years until I moved away from New York. And it was just tough to get out there every month for the monthly shows when I moved back to Massachusetts. Staten Island was quite a trip.
Yeah.
You're going to drive there. It's going to cost you far more money than what I was making.
Yeah.
Like even to get there, take a bus, take a ferry and everything. I'm just like, it just didn't make sense, but I was grateful for that opportunity. So maybe that's my first big opportunity, was actually finally getting my first commentary gig, which helped lead to having footage like, hey, here's this, I can do this. but I'd say big wrestling opportunity would be that first Limitless Wrestling show, knowing that we just surpassed 10 years. We put over 1,700 people in the Colisee this past August. We're heading back.
Insane.
It's insane. And to even just be commentary up in the actual booth up there in
Yeah.
the Colisee, it's just like, that's what I still want to be a part of. You know what I mean? That's the type of thing where it's just like, it reminds me like, yes, this is still fun.
When you talk for earlier, you mentioned the gift of gab. Did you always have it? And if not, like, how did you build the confidence? Because as you know, in wrestling, some people still don't have it. So for you personally, how did you get it?
I think that, like, again, my brother was a very charismatic guy. He was an actor in high school. I was an actor in high school. And again, I lived off of pro wrestling. My vocabulary, this is the teachers when I was a kid, like I'd use a word that I would hear, Jim Ross or them say. I remember one time in school, I called a nose a proboscis because they would, like, Jim Ross would talk about Triple H's nose. And they're like, what? And I'm like, it means nose. And the teacher's like, yes, it does. Like, how do you know these words? I would listen and I would just, rewatch tapes and like my vocabulary and listening to all of these people, like a Michael Cole, like a Jim Ross, like a Taz, like a Jerry Lawler, because all of them are all very different. But you learn how to, like, certain diction, certain cadence of every commentator. Indie commentators you'd listen to. I love Dave Prazak. You listen to like an Eric Gargiulo over at CZW, John House, and all varying degrees of good and bad, but like you can bring something from everything. And when you watched as much wrestling as I did as a kid, I took that. I heard how to deliver, and it just stuck with me. And that's how I was able to always get on and deliver in my own way, from having listened to as much as possible and watched as much as possible over the course of my life up to that point, 22, almost 23 years.
Yeah.
And that's how I commentated.
Wow.
I just think I've always watched these charismatic people, and it became ingrained in me. It's like, that's how you can deliver.
Yeah.
That's how you should be talking to get people's attention. Even in your day, day to day, I'm sitting here talking to you like this.
Yeah.
I know there's people that cannot sit here and have a conversation like this and do it like this for whatever reason. But again, I think that's just, everyone's different in that aspect.
Yeah. So for me personally, my childhood, I guess, Top Shelf Troy is iconic. I still, when me and my dad are in the car and Lido Shuffle comes on, we think of you automatically. But I'm curious, where does the inspiration come from, Top Shelf Troy?
So again, in the 90s, I still do love all the, like, I liked those mid-card, jobbers to the stars guys that all had, day jobs as their character. TL Hopper was a plumber.
Yeah.
Grossy ended up being really fucking gross, so fuck him. But the garbage man.
Yeah.
Lagoon was a hockey player by day, wrestling by night. Isaac Yankem was a dentist. Mm-hmm. I loved all of those characters. And I'm like, even though the indies, I like, obviously big indie fan, the Ring of Honor DVDs, CZW DVDs, CHIKARA. Those CHIKARA characters, also everyone in CHIKARA had like a character.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to just be, Johnny Wrestler. I want a character. Because at the time, 2012, 13, especially around the New York indies too, I saw them, was like, nobody has like a distinct character. Everyone's a great wrestler. Everyone's trained well. Same with Massachusetts at the time. You looked at the Chaotix of the world. You looked at the NECWs. There was no characters in 2012, 13. And there might have been a couple for sure, but I'm like, there needs to be something distinct about it. And I'm like, I'm going to be a bartender. I worked in bars. At the time I was managing bars. I was not bartending, but I was managing and overseeing bars. I'm like, I'm going to take that character of like just this, guy who drinks on the job, bartender. He's kind of like a hack, but at the same time, he takes himself very seriously. And I want to play to my strengths, which I thought were some good comedic timing. And I'm like, who doesn't like talking to the bartender? The bartender's your best friend when you go to the bar. But these guys, drinks, you're going to pay him for those drinks. You really just want your money.
Yeah.
He's going to be your best friend for the duration of that ride. So I wanted to be that type of bartender and bring a sort of skeezy drunk if I was a heel, or happy-go-lucky friendly baby face character if I was, a baby face. and see if that would translate well. And I thought I did a pretty good job, especially in my earlier career. I'd come out to the ring with either like a martini shaker, or I'd come out to the ring with a, martini glass. Especially as a heel, I'd have like water, a little food coloring in there.
Yeah.
And I'd talk, and I'd always do a promo, throw the thing in the guy's face. I was like, for the first few matches, my big thing, especially if I was in different areas, throw that in his face, turn around, be like, and then bump and feed for the baby face.
Yeah.
I was a heel, so I'm just like, it's like I would come out with that, just get your comeuppance immediately, because he's arrogant and he thinks that, again, he's like this metropolitan bartender.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? He's a hack. That's what he is. He should get exposed by the baby face.
When I look at your career, I remember being in class for like 6th, 7th grade, just sitting there watching Limitless Wrestling matches of yours.
Drawing knees.
I love it. It's crazy. It started, I drew you. You're one of the few to get one, and now I'm interviewing you. So it's crazy for me. For you, when I talk Limitless Wrestling, there was a few matches that stand out I want to ask you about. The first one I remember, I could be wrong. It's been years since I watched this. Remember, Drew Cordero and Ethan Page are on commentary. You wrestling Kikutaro. That's nuts.
It was nuts.
Yeah. His only Limitless match?
Kikutaro?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That is his number one. Have to imagine that's his only time wrestling in Maine.
Yeah.
That people ask me, like, what's your favorite match? And I think it's still that one, because it's just like, I'm a very big like points of separation type guy. Again, a guy I saw in Ring of Honor, Kikutaro, formerly the first Ebasan.
Yep.
Big Osaka Pro guy as well. Through CHIKARA, have plenty of Osaka Pro footage that I've gone back and watched over the years. Kikutaro to me was just like, that is fun. I want to be as funny as him. I want to like get the audience captivated in a match. And people don't realize Kikutaro can go.
Yeah.
We structured a match around more comedy than anything, but if need be, he can go. He was so good. Going into that, I'm thinking, this is my first time talking to someone that English is not their first language. So I was a little nervous. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. He spoke just enough English that was good. And that's the best part about wrestling. You talk about like, the international, right? Lock up, side headlock, shoot up, international.
International
wrestling. You just know it. If you don't speak the same language, everyone knows what you can go for international. But just like everything we knew, we just felt in this moment. Our first opening spot is me trying to do a split, and then him trying to do a split. I told him, I'm going to do a split. We get up, we do whatever. We didn't call him trying to do a split. He tried to go do a split, got stuck. I just knew enough. I'm going to go behind. Schoolboy 1, 2, boom. And I'm just like, in that moment, I remember thinking like, oh, it's a lot easier that people make it. Like, if you can think about making sense. I don't claim to be someone that was very good at calling on the fly. I really, only did so much on the fly. I would do like birthday party matches. Like if I would go help out the show in Staten Island, I would never that was where I'd learn. I'd never call a birthday party match. Would just do it on the fly. But like, in little moments like that, I was like, this guy, his first language is Japanese, a little bit of English, and we were still able to put together this fun, captivating match. I understood it. And it was so fun because it's just, again, at that time, that was 2000, March of 17.
Yeah.
I probably saw Kikutaro for the first time in late 06, 07. So for 10 years, I knew how good he was and saw him, compete for Ring of Honor, CHIKARA, got my hands on the Osaka Pro footage, and then everywhere else in Japan. Again, points of separation. He's worked with everyone. Takayama, Minoru Suzuki, you name it, he has worked with. And now I get to be a part of that to a degree and, work with a guy who's worked with everybody. It was a very fun match. It's fun. Drew Cordero and Julian did a great job on commentary. Ethan Page was awesome.
Yeah.
Pandemic ruined me working for Alpha One. I was it stunk because around later that year, and Ethan Page had come back on a show. I'm like, hey, because we had gone out to a diner before. I'm like, hey, I wanted to give you some of my footage of something recently, and I was hoping if you could watch this. It was probably 18. Me and Dick Justice were wrestling, or maybe it was 9. I'm trying to remember because pandemic was 2020. I'm trying to think when I saw him, but he said you only send me footage when you want to come up, let me know. And that was
yeah.
I'm like, man, I feel like I swindled this guy.
Wow.
But the pandemic ruined it. I think I was going to try to go up in like early 2020. Um, just never came to be. But I was so happy to have someone like him and Drew. I always liked Drew on commentary for things. My fourth match was for Beyond. I have had one match for Beyond Wrestling that will never see the light of day. It's
Was it a studio show or?
Yep, it was a studio show. That's where Randy saw me for the first time and really liked me.
Wow.
He might have been the only one that really liked me. Me and Ortiz versus the guy Thorson Creed and Ricky Richards III, two New York stalwarts. It was my fourth match. I was so excited to be a part of that. The match was fine for my fourth match. Maybe not so good for the other guys' millionth matches.
Yeah.
But that was where Randy saw me, and he's like, "This guy's unique and different, and I think I want to have him a part of it." And, a year. I'm trying to think. That was October. No, that was November of 13. So a year later, September of 15 is the first Limitless show, and I was on it.
Insane. You've been with Limitless pretty much since the jump, so I'm curious. There's a few matches that nothing. I want to ask you if there's anything that stands out. I remember you wrestled WeeBL in a Texas Bullrope. Anything specific from that match that stands out?
Will Dojan fucked the finish. I only touched 3 turnbuckles, and it's because Robbie had me up on his shoulders. Robbie was confused. I like Robbie. Robbie's I mean, you know him from he's from out that area.
Front of the show, oh yeah.
Yeah. So Robbie got me up on his shoulder. The whole idea is that he was going to drop me on the 4th turnbuckle, but he missed carrying me to the 3rd turnbuckle, and he dropped me to do the spot for the 4th turnbuckle that was going to be for them to call for the bell. He did it. I'd only hit 3. Dojan calls for the bell, and every fan's like, "Well, you didn't touch 4 fucking turnbuckles." And I'm thinking to myself, like, "God damn it, Will. Yeah. Will, if you're listening, I hope you're well. I'm not angry." But man, oh man, it's just, I don't know. Like, you hit 4 turnbuckles. You I don't know. All I'm thinking about, like, oh shit, he's gonna drop me. And before he even dropped him, thinking like, oh, he's gonna drop me. I need to just go run to the other turnbuckle. But I remember the other turnbuckle. It was like the one that was across the way. I'm like, how did this happen? So the match ended up being a mess at the end, but it was a fun little piece of business leading up to that. My favorite thing was I did the split ball punch that I'd done known for my uncanny flexibility. Again, I think the split got me booked on 50% of the shows I was on when I probably had no business being on a lot of these shows.
Wow.
Split ball punch, and seeing that he was so small, I literally just grabbed him and I just fell back with him with a suplex. He was already right there, and I was already in the split. And I remember that got a good crowd reaction because that's something that never been done.
Yeah.
Something that like only people that could do a split. And at that point, like, I don't know, Sunny Kiss wasn't really as popular yet. Sunny, she was still working just like the ECPW shows in New York at the time. Try to think any other people that do splits now. I think like Janai Kai. Her and I had a really fun match that was based off of both of us doing a split and just both doing the sort of like teeing off in the split position and stuff. But at the time, I felt like my split was its own unique thing that not everybody had seen. And again,
who taught you how to split? How'd you learn?
I was just flexible. I was a kid. I was just like sit in weird positions that were comfortable to me. And then as you get older, you realize if you're the kid that can do a split, like school dances, it's fun. Everyone just starts the dance circle, gets you going. It's like, oh, I would love some attention right now. So let me just go do this split. So I just always kept up with my flexibility. I've really been thinking about doing some yoga. I don't know if I can. I haven't done the split in a long time.
Yeah.
Like usually it's only wedding season now that I'm not wrestling. I'm like, I haven't had a wedding in a bit, so I don't know. I haven't done the split in like 2 years. Probably shouldn't just do it. Kind of.
Another Limitless I want to ask you, or in general, is there any Swoggle stories that stand out?
So Dylan's the best.
Yeah,
he's the best of us. He was just on Stephanie McMahon's.
I know. I just seen it before this
shop, and he's just the nicest dude. Literally, can't say enough good things. So the night that I wrestled Kikutaro, he crashed at my place that night. It was him and another guy I knew had a show in New Jersey. So he crashed. We went to the diner. We went to the diner with the Chicago guys, the freelance guys, all good dudes out there. Rene Dupree was at the diner. He was very odd, very kind, very fucking odd.
I forgot who he wrestled. He wrestled that thing.
He wrestled Dickie. I think he wrestled Chris Dickinson on that.
Yeah.
And we're all at the diner. So Swoggle spends the night. We're just talking about it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, still, it never stopped dawning on me, like, there's that guy I watched in high school, just sleeping on my couch,
Yeah.
the little person. So the next morning, my favorite part about that, before we talk about the match, is I lived in an in-laws apartment next to my folks at the time. It was its own separate thing,
Hmm.
but I go over there sometimes because like the other guy that I was with, guy I'd rather not talk about, I had introduced him to my folks before, so I said, "Oh, I'll let you go say hi to my folks. We'll bring Dylan." I didn't tell my dad that I had a little person with me, and I'm like,
Did they follow wrestling at all or no?
no, they.
Okay.
My mother like was humored by it when she was young. She liked Randy Savage when my brother would watch,
Yeah.
like Shawn Michaels when I would watch. She liked Jeff Jarrett because she liked country music.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like she didn't really care. But my father didn't give a shit about wrestling.
Yeah.
He was happy I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I bring Dylan over there to meet my folks. She's like, "Oh, this is Dylan." I didn't tell him. It's a little person. I just like to see how he's like, "Oh, all right, how's it going?" I'm just thinking about my dad of all people, just being like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
But great guy. We had a really fun match that September. Easy to work with. Wants to go. Wants to wrestle. Like you know what I mean. Like he would like be calling spots and stuff. Like for a guy that had finished up in WWE, he was happy to be on the Indies. Happy to show up. Happy to do work. I had a really fun one there. Heaviest little motherfucker on earth. That's why we built the match around it being me slamming Andre when it's really just Swoggle.
Yeah.
Try to work the body slam. Kept it simple for comedy. Rule of 3, easy cop out. First slam, couldn't get him up. He slams me.
Hmm.
He slams me. I know you put in clips at some point.
Oh yeah.
Clip him slamming me at this point. That match is on YouTube. And then the second time I get him up, easy. Just he falls on me. The third time is the charm at the end, and then of course over the leg drop, and just crowds eating it up still. Because at that point, I had lost every match for a full year in Limitless, and then I won a year's worth of matches, and that was like the year ender.
Nice.
So,
How does Whiskey Dick come together for you?
I think Randy didn't know what to do with me after a year of being undefeated, and I think he wanted to take it in a different direction, and he had used Dick Justice in singles matches, so he put us together starting in January of 18. He's Dick, I'm the bartender. Whiskey Dick, very easy, and we were putting together some really solid matches, I thought. That was the first I remember. It was me and Dick versus DL Hurst and Brett Domino, and I remember Scott saying to me, "He's like, that's the first good match you've ever had." But it felt good. It felt good to hear. Like, holy crap, did I have a good match? That
Yeah.
this guy who I've been friends with forever actually like he sees it. So it's like, holy crap, that was a good thing to hear. And like we put something good together. We worked with Bear Country. We worked with Jeff Cannonball. Shout out to Jeff and Brandon Kirk, the Rogues. Me and Dick really loved that match. We got to really brawl around the ring, which is like not normal stuff that we would have done. And we had a lot of fun working with them. We were supposed to have more stuff with them, but Jeff was always booked for something because we were supposed to have a couple of series of matches with them, but just never turned out that way. We wrestled Jay Freddy and Johnny Silver, the Thick Boys,
Yeah.
in a Wet Hot American Street Fight. It was like a pool toys match. Like we worked with all the different things there. Dick and I really enjoyed the matches. We had a lot of fun. Crowd was receptive. I think Randy just by the end, just he wasn't feeling it for whatever reason. It happens.
Yeah, for sure.
It happens. Then Randy's a friend of mine and stuff. So it's just like if he wasn't feeling it, he wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
I stand by those matches. If you go back, crowd is up for all of them. Me and Dick put out some unique work in each one of them. We always wanted to try to get booked elsewhere as a team, and it was just tough because he was out in upstate New York. I'm in Massachusetts, and we just couldn't put it all together to take the show on the road, so to speak.
Yeah.
Schedule was weird. I worked a lot of weekends where I should have been wrestling, but being in the bar business and stuff, I was the manager once I was back in these other bars too, so I was working, so it was just tough. But, I always enjoyed Whiskey Dick, and John's an awesome guy. He's back doing things.
Yeah.
I'm happy he's enjoying it, and just a really great guy.
Talking your career and talking tag teams, I want to talk about the Genius Bar, but I'm curious for you. One name is Mark Sterling. What is it about the chemistry that you had with Mark? Obviously, with everything off the hop, team in at one point. What was it about the chemistry you had with him?
I think it was again, I knew my limits, and I would like to try to work that style of like maybe not just nearly simple, but like very Memphis, very 80s,
Yeah.
aka I am limited. That isn't to say people in the 80s were limited, but I'm just saying like I'm going to kind of get by, and my strengths are in my vocals, in my facials, in the character, in my promos, and then I'm going to go to the ring and just do Jerry Blackwell stuff because I'm out of shape.
Yeah.
Mark got himself into some excellent shape, but also just loved, that style of like, just kind of like, I wouldn't call it simple, but like a less is more approach. And at
Yeah.
the same time, if you needed Mark to go out and wrestle 30 minutes, he could do it easy. At that time, Jeremy Leary put us together in our first tag match. Jeremy Leary, the undisputed king of just putting two people together for a tag match. But I'm grateful for that because Mark and I didn't just click, but we became very good friends. Still
Nice.
talk to Mark every day. So we were the Genius Bar. I was the bartender. He was Smart Mark, Genius Bar, the Apple, fix-it desk there at the Apple store. We wrestled, it was supposed to be the Masterminds, Marshall McNeil and Johnny Idol. Johnny Idol was, I don't know, Marshall McNeil was hurt. So it was Johnny Idol and Sean Burke, another good friend of mine, that night. And we put together a good little match. And Jeremy really liked it. I was happy with it. Mark was happy with it. Sean Burke, who's tough to please, who had heard Scott just shit on me the whole time, said, "Hey, you're not too bad." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate it, Sean. Like, you're easy to work with." I'm like, "Thank you, Sean Burke. Very good hearing." But we were married to the Masterminds for the rest of the year. One of our favorite matches we got to do is when we brought in Sydney Bacabella because we were going to wrestle the Masterminds managed by Jimmy Hart. Joey Eastman reached out and said, "Hey, you need someone to go up against Jimmy Hart." He's like, "You should check in with Leary and see if he'd bring me in." So we put the idea into Leary's head and was like, "That actually is a really good idea." We had so much fun working with Jimmy Hart, and me and Mark argue that that's our best match together is us with Sydney versus the Masterminds and Jimmy Hart. Very easy. We were the match before the main event. You wouldn't think it. The crowd was so up for it.
Yeah.
Like we just gelled, Mark and I. We always kind of, had similar approaches to those tag matches of what we wanted to accomplish, especially working with guys like Johnny and Marshall, who also wrestled I wrestled similar to how they worked. It just all gelled really well. And Mark, that's kind of how, at least off the hop rope, is he's training at Create a Pro. Mark was Mark Malibu. Do you ever get Mark on this show?
No, not yet.
Oh, we can get Mark on the show.
Yeah.
Mark Malibu. He liked craft beer. He
Yeah.
had trained to wrestle, but he was out in New York and he was friendly with CPA. And I knew CPA. We wrestled CPA in October of 17. It's October of 16.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestled CPA for the first time, but like we gelled and we were very friendly. And I like CPA because he's an occupational gimmick.
Of course. Was it a
Axeman.
singles match in CPA?
No, this was a tag match. It was 8-man tag. It was us and who are the guys from like New York, Vermont line? They're brothers. I have it written down.
I'll put the information in here. They'll see it.
I was gonna say it was the two dudes from like Vermont, New York. They had a wrestling show out of Vermont and like that area of New York. What the hell were their names? I'll remember in a minute. It was us four versus the Masterminds and the Breakfast Club, Kip Stevens, CPA. That was the first time we all worked together. We had some good rapport, and Mark knew how much I love craft beer, and he was really getting into it. He had a lot of good breweries in his area, and he came up with the idea of Off the Hop Rope. And originally, I'm like, "I don't have time to do a podcast, Mark. I know you really want to do this, but I don't have time."
Yeah.
He's like, "Just come on. Just what can I do to do it? Like, we'll get Nick in on it, CPA." Like, Nick was sold. Nick was happy to do something. I'm like, "I don't know if I want to do a podcast."
How was like the idea pitched to you? Was it like how the format ended up becoming?
Well, yeah. I was gonna say, well, the idea was pitched to me of just like we drink a beer and we watch a match and we like say why this beer belongs with this match. And I'm like, I don't like. I just didn't want to have to commit to a podcast every week. And then instead we did it, and we did not miss an episode for 2.5 years. The only reason we stopped was because Mark got signed.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why we had to stop, just because it's kind of a conflict of interest of us to, go on like, all right, we're going to watch this WWE match or this WCW match or this, whatever we do to pair the perfect beer with the perfect wrestling match. But again, I still wasn't sold when we first, right before we first started. And Mark kind of like started thinking like, like all the taglines and stuff. And I saw how much fun him and Nick were having. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is really fun. I'm in. Let's give it a try. And we did well. We did really well. We had quite the following. Again, I think a lot of it, and one of the things I told you, like, don't miss a week.
Yeah.
Have a bunch of episodes in the can. Be ready. Like, always have something right. You miss a week, feel like,
Over.
Show's over.
I'm doing 2 weeks now since September to February.
That's right. You're going to be perfect. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
But yes, we started building it, and it helped that shortly thereafterwards, the Major Wrestling Figure podcast started, which had an even bigger reach. And Mark was always talking about like his podcast, and that's how Brian and Matt Cardona, found out about me. Like, who's Top Shelf Troy? And then they showed him my footage, like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
They would use me for commentary when they ran the FWF shows. They'd bring me in. That was always a nice kind of a pat on the back that both Brian and Matt liked my commentary enough to have me commentate their shows. Mm-hmm. That was a nice, seal of approval there. But we got a nice rub from their podcast that started like 8 or 10 weeks after ours. We gained more viewership or listenership.
Didn't you join the network too?
Yeah, we were a part of the Major Pod Network,
your
favorite bar. And, like this fan base that really liked us, loved us. We have a fan, Justin Summers, who every year, and he sent me a picture the other day, sends us Christmas ale from out in the Midwest. Great Lakes Brewing Company, Christmas ale every year.
Yeah.
We have so many excellent fans that would mail us beer from wherever they were, whether it be California, the Midwest, down south is Florida, the Carolinas. And it was so nice getting these care packs, and we feature them on the show. It's like, all right, well, match will we pay with this? Then it's like saving us money on fucking beer.
Yeah.
And people really enjoyed it. We really enjoyed doing it. I can't imagine. I know it sounds weird to me. It's like, I don't drink after like 8 o'clock anymore. Mm-hmm. I'd rather drink a beer at 11:30 in the morning than 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So and do these podcasts, and I'm starting at 10 and have to crush a beer. Like, I feel sick now. I just don't got it like that anymore. But yes, it was a very good experience. All those episodes. For those of you that like craft beer and pro wrestling, go find a random episode and see if you like it. It's called Off the Hop Rope.
Yeah.
It's still on all the places where you can find podcasts. And it was just a really fun time. And again, that's we got to a bunch of people like, MJF would come on. So it was nice to just, because he was already friends with Mark and stuff. It was nice to talk shop with MJF at the time when he was just still a regular Tom, Dick, and Harry like the rest of us.
Yeah.
We'd have Danny Doring on the show, who's awesome. We'd have Chris Statlander was on the show.
Nick Delta.
Nick Galon, my buddy, he lives up in Maine now. Great.
No, he does?
Yeah, he still works for Orono Brewing Company. He works up there. Yeah, he's the best. Nick's great. But like
Skylar, you had Jeremy Leary. I remember the
Royal Rumble
episodes.
So trashed. Whenever I would do an episode with Jeremy and Skylar, I knew I was going to get trashed. We'd go to Hampton Beach. We did Worldwide Stout, which is like a 15% ABV. I know you don't know anything about that yet, Chris.
I'll have I'm 21 next year. I need to have a beer with Top Shelf Troy.
It's like you'll wake up in a field somewhere in Plastown, New Hampshire. Whenever I go hang out with Jeremy and Brianna, like, man, I couldn't hang with those two. I love them both. I'm like, man, they can go. We drink Worldwide Stout, a 15% ABV stout, and be like, what is going on right now? They were always super fun. But we had so many good guests. Like Matt Cardona did the show with us. Brian Myers did the show with us. It was fun to watch him win the U.S. title with him just watching the match.
Yeah.
With us and having a beer. We had Bud Light Lime, I think, that's Matt's favorite beer at the time. Just fun to like just talk shop, break bread, so to speak. And that was a good podcast to do it, where like the focal point is you're going to have a beer, you're going to talk about the beer, like something you normally wouldn't do.
For somebody at the time who was watching this, I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. I remember like I used to have a soda when you guys had a beer. So how do you pair the perfect beer with the perfect wrestling match?
Sometimes it was just easy and like they were gimmies, or we just, if we had a beer and we needed to, like, there's nothing, like, I want to do a particular match, but we had this beer, you just that was kind of like the point of the show, was just find a funny little reason to make it so that this beer is the perfect beer. But some things were, you know, easier to connect than others. Like if you would have a match, like, actually stay tight right there. I'll show you one. Like, it's easy to pair a Bam Bam Bigelow beer with
Yeah,
a beer that has Bam Bam Bigelow on the can. Ross
amazing.
Bach in Quebec. Talk about Nick Delta. He's the one that picked up these cans for us in Canada. We did Hogan and Iron Sheik. Hogan winning the belt from Iron Sheik. Combat Spandex. There's Iron Sheik and
Wow.
the can, like, easy to connect the dots and why this would be the
Yeah.
perfect beer while watching Iron Sheik versus Hulk Hogan, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt. So some were easier than others, and fans like that. And again, like, craft, even if you weren't a craft beer drinker or a beer drinker at all, or a 13-year-old kid like you, I think you would appreciate the humor and the connecting of the dots of why it would be the perfect beer for the perfect match. And then we sit and watch the match and kind of break it down. And that I was always on the, like, I never wanted to commentate, or rather watch, like, Mark wanted to do a series on like Undertaker's WrestleMania matches. And I was like, why do we need to watch that when we can watch like Canyon versus Perry Saturn? Like, I always want to watch deep cut matches that nobody remembers and do that. And we had, Mark explained to me that, you really need to find a happy medium between matches that people that still want to be, they want to hear your opinion on Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Hell in a Cell versus your thoughts on Dean Douglas versus Razor Ramon from In Your House 3.
Yeah.
And I understood that. I didn't want to, but I
Yeah.
did. So.
Well, you mentioned earlier CHIKARA, so I'm curious for you guys, how did the opportunity for Off the Hop go, and how was your experience at CHIKARA?
It was awesome. I had
Yeah.
already refed for CHIKARA.
And wait, who was your guy when you used to watch CHIKARA? Like, who was your favorites for the gimmicks?
Oh man. Colony, of course, just because all great workers and all different things. You had Gulak doing Soldier Ant with the grenade. It was always a good time. Fire Ant, whoever he may be.
Yeah.
We don't need to say.
Yeah.
The Hot Property, one of the best wrestlers in the group. His match against Vin Gerard, Jerry, of course, from IWTV. The Young Lions Cup in '08 is an excellent indie match that everyone should go watch. It's on IWTV. It's night 3 of the Young Lions Cup in '08. Awesome match. Worker Ant was good, and that lives way to Green Ant, another popular wrestler these days.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that might know, we don't need to reveal too many secrets. But they just gelled so well together, had great matches against Fist. So you're thinking Icarus, Chuck Taylor, Gran Akuma, eventually Johnny Gargano. Just everything about it. Plus all the international players. Quack was, of course, one of my favorites. Absolutely. Yeah. His body of work. Some people aren't Quack people as far as his work goes. I love it. I think fluid as could be. I think he was just one of the best on the indies. Claudio Castagnoli, Aries, not Aries, that's Aries, Ares.
Yeah.
Like Claudio's first tag partner, part of Swiss Sleeper Holding back in the day. Chris Hero, Jimmy Jam Olsen, Colin Delaney.
Yeah.
Man, everyone that was there, just everything just really gelled. Let's say Dorado, the Pantera of Mexico fame, just everyone that came in, it just was the best. King of Trios, so of course, Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney, Kingston feud, great stuff. Larry Sweeney, I'd like to think there's an alternate timeline where he's making millions of dollars with either AEW or WWE right now. Just I never got to meet him in person, always wanted to, but such an influence because he wrestled the way I wanted to wrestle.
Nice.
I mean, if you watch Larry Sweeney, like he was, taken directly out of the '80s and just meshed so well in those mid 2000s with everyone that he worked with. So he was probably like number one was Larry Sweeney.
Nice, good pick.
But yeah, I did a Wrestling is Fun. They needed a ref for a Wrestling is Fun event. and I kind of, wanted to learn how to ref a bit. I wanted to be good at everything. I wanted to, want to wrestle. I want to commentate more than anything, but I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, you're a ref? Sure, I'll be your ref. Maybe that leads to commentary. You know what I mean? I did Wrestling is Fun. And then literally a month later, CHIKARA was coming to Haverhill, Mass, and that's where I'm from. And,
Yeah.
they needed a ref that night too. So they gave me the call. Like, yeah, you did a good job at that show. Come on in. I did the weekend for that in Connecticut. Hopped along with Scott to the ECW arena in December of 2014. Did Heidi Lovelace versus Missile Assault Ant for the Young Lions Cup that night. Reffing at the ECW arena was very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool experience to work in front of that audience. So by February of 2015, I got the call to say, hey, do you want to come on more full time with us? And I did.
Yeah.
For 3 years through 2017 as a ref, on top of my own wrestling bookings, on top of my own commentary bookings. And I was a part of it. I was a part of those stories that I had watched all throughout high school and college religiously. And I was very much happy to be a part of the team. Everyone was really good to me. Genuinely, I don't have any nobody was weird to me.
Yeah.
I think that it helps when you're constantly surrounded by Big Scott, Mr. Thomas, and Sean Burke.
Yeah.
Anyone's going to mess with me or do anything weird to me anyways. But, when you're surrounded by those three big dudes, like, let's just leave them alone.
Yeah.
It was really cool to me. Everyone was really nice. I got to sit under the Bryce Remsburg learning tree, and what a saint.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy, very knowledgeable, cares. Very happy to have learned from Bryce, who was very good to me, and welcomed me in, made me really feel a part of it. What does that lead to the match? After I finished up reffing, they're doing a brewery show, and Bryce had been on our show, or was about to be on a show, and he reached out to us saying, like, do you guys want to maybe do live podcasts or something on this? Like, we have time. And I said to Bryce, I'm like, I don't know if this is weird to ask, but is there a 6-man tag opportunity? We don't we'll put somebody over. And he said, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, he's like, you guys versus the Proteus wheel at this show. And it's like, I'm going to wrestle for CHIKARA. Even if it happens only once,
Yeah.
I get to be a part of it. It happened. It was so fun at that brewery. A lot of people, packed show. Less than 8 minutes against the Proteus wheel. It was a 6-man tag, simple ABC. It was a brewery show, but it's up there on IWTV. It's there forever. I got to say that I, reffed for them and wrestled for them.
Yeah.
And it was everything I could have wanted to be, especially with two of my closest friends as my teammates in Smart Mark and CPA. I said, I want to make sure I eat the pin. I'm like, I want to be a part of the deciding factor.
Yeah.
I got crushed by a swanton bomb by, God, I forget all their names in the Proteus wheel now, but I got crucified with a swanton bomb. But it was fine. It was good, and very much happy to have been a part of that.
I'll let you know this. I have 5 dream guests for 2026. One of them, it's trying to happen in the works, is tag team partner. I want to interview Mr. Touchdown. He's never done anything in wrestling in years, but his tag partner is trying to see if we can make it happen.
Oh, I was gonna say Avery Good.
I've interviewed him. I love him.
Dasher Hatfield, aka Sean. Great guy.
Yeah.
Always no matter where he's, Ref Troy Nelson, not just Troy Nelson. He's like, Ref Troy Nelson, how are you? Good to see you. A lot of those guys, so hey, it's Ref Troy Nelson. Not just Troy, not Troy Nelson. Ref Troy Nelson, how are you? Yeah, all really good guys.
Nice. I'm curious, when does the idea of officially retiring come in for you? Because I remember Grind, you did an I Quit match, and then that final match, I guess, is that triple threat you have with the Off the Hop. So when does the idea come for that?
I think, again, this is where I feel like it's, some people have to be brutally honest with themselves. I wasn't keeping up in the gym like I did when I was 22, 23. I wasn't keeping up with training like I did when I was 22 or 23. Post-pandemic, I was trying to get bookings, and, Randy would be able to throw me one here or there, but I'd reach out to local outfits. I don't think I asked for too much money. I think there were times I didn't ask for money. I think just some people just didn't care for my work. And I think that, people don't like to admit that.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm not for everybody. yeah, being brutally honest, like I just could not get the booking. So my matches were so few and far in between that I said, I kind of see the writing on the wall. And again, I'm not keeping, I was trying to, like, I couldn't keep up in the gym like I once did. Not that I was ever an Adonis or anything, but I couldn't keep up, and I had to be honest with myself because I'm very like I never hurt anybody while wrestling. You know what I mean? But if you aren't keeping up with yourself, if you're not caring about yourself enough in that sense, you're going to hurt yourself, or even worse, you're going to end up accidentally hurting somebody else. So I said, you know what? I think I'm going to have like I'm good enough to have like a couple. Thank you, Rip Bison, for giving me that opportunity. I had a solid match against Travis Huckabee in an I Quit match, which started just from him berating me from the ring when I was commentating the grind shows. And Ripper's like, hey, I think we have something here. Let's keep doing this. And it led to a match with someone who I'm friendly with. Travis was always really good to me because we were reffing at the same time in CHIKARA.
Nice.
But thank you to Rip for giving me the opportunity at a time when I genuinely just couldn't get booked for matches.
Yeah.
And Randy, when he found out I was finishing up, he's like, oh, I'd like to have your last match. And I'm like, I'm for it. I'm just like, if you booked me on Let's Wrestle more, this would have been fine. But he understands. We had a chat, and he's like, I'm sorry I couldn't get you in on more things. I'm like, I understand. Because again, I think a lot of things that a lot of wrestlers don't do is they're not honest with each other. I was not putting out the type of work where I should have been getting booked every weekend. And that's me being honest with myself. So it was time to stop. That's the thing I think a lot of wrestlers will linger around because they don't know anything else, or they just can't stop when they should. But sometimes you just really gotta be honest with yourself. And sometimes it's tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I quit the business, because I've been in 2 battle royals since, because I've been asked like, hey, can you be in battle royal? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Like I will not have another full match ever again. I don't think that would be good for anybody. But I am grateful for the time that I had and the opportunities that I had in my little spot in the sun, getting to work for the Limitless Wrestlings, the Blitzkrieg Pros, CHIKARA. Wrestling Has It Tomorrow. JT came through. JT said, after I was commentating, he's like, I will make sure you get to wrestle at Fett Music. He did that. He's like, he's the one that reached out to me. He's like, I want you in the multi-man. He did that, but like anyone that took a chance on me and let me perform, and not only just let me perform, but then found ways to find stories for me because they knew that I could deliver a little something different, I'm very grateful for. And that's why I still enjoy telling the stories in a different way, just at commentary, which again is the one thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
In the first place. So happy to be able to do that here and there.
When you look at your career, who would you say brought the best out of Top Shelf Troy Nelson?
Smart Mark. Again, people like, it's not even necessarily the people that I worked with that brought out the best in me. I mean, in the ring, CPA would make me think outside the box. I always enjoyed calling matches with Nick because maybe there's times when I wanted to settle, we'd be like, no, let's just keep it. Like we'd keep building, and put something together really nice. So I think CPA always brought something more out of me. But like people just on the side, people like Mark, who's like wanted to see me do better. They wanted to see me go get back in the gym. People like Big Scott, who would keep me honest. Those are the people that I appreciate the most. They would bring out the best of me because they wanted the best from me.
Yeah.
Nothing to do bell to bell. It had more to do outside the ring. So
how was it for this past experience just commentating at the Colisee, even the time before that, commentating on the iconic building, and especially this one, to see what Limitless Wrestling has built, and you've been a part of it pretty much since the jump. How has that been for you?
It's been great. I mean, those are the shows we wish we could put 1,700 in the building every single time.
Yeah.
Then after that point, it's like, all right, now I want 2,500 people in the building. I mean, that's what we live for. That's what we want to do. Grateful to have done that. I believe we'll be in the Colisee again very soon.
Nice.
We did Brick South in South Portland for Limitless. We put over 1,200 in the building. That was awesome. Obviously, we're performers. We want more people. I don't get commentary. I know it's being streamed out there. People are watching and listening, but it's never bothered me. Dude, the workers in the ring provide the action. I just call what I see.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep doing that as long as they want me to.
Is there a match if somebody was to ask you? I know you commentated numerous matches, but is there one specific that stands out that if someone were to ask you about your commentary career, you point at?
It's like when you say it out loud like that, I gravitate towards Cody Rhodes, JT Dunn.
Okay.
Like it's like I think the commentary itself is good. I think it's just able to say that I have that footage of like, hey, here's me commentating the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is me commentating the guy right now in Cody Rhodes at a time where when he was first on the Indies, very hot, very hot, you know what I mean? Like he was a hot property.
Hmm.
And I got to call that match. So that like the first thing that popped in my mind was that. I mean, for me, if I had to put together a reel, I don't know what I would put together, but I think the matches like in recent memory, getting to commentate the guys that can still go that I grew up watching. In this case, Too Cold Scorpio. I commentated him and Desmond Cole
Nice.
a couple of years back, maybe about 2 years back now. And what a fun match. I was so happy to be able to, be on the call for that. Um, like those are, especially being a part of Limitless, those are the guys I enjoy commentating for the most. The Desmond Coles, the Aaron Rourke, Alec Price. Um, I have so many favorites, and I'm lucky to still be a part of that, like I said, and watch them grow. And I always joke about, I'm like, I hope I never commentate for these people again because I want them to go. I want them to make their money elsewhere, and I want them to be on TV.
Yeah. Talking Big Scott, I'm curious when you talk Rad Pro Wrestling. Obviously, when you think Rad Pro, it's like CHIKARA asked for you. How does your personality, your persona come in? Is that your idea? Is that Scott's?
In the know, Arthur Carbonneau is just kind of a dork.
Okay.
In theory, Arthur Carbonneau is like a guy who got fired from ESPN commentating the worst sports like boat racing and darts. And he's like, well, I guess I'll commentate wrestling until I can get hired back by ESPN. So
Okay.
it's almost like, like a Ron Burgundy of pro wrestling to a degree, like Anchorman style.
Yeah.
Still, not being too aggressive, trying to focus on the wrestling. And I think that's what I like about Rad. It fills a void for CHIKARA, in which case it takes these young workers throughout the Northeast, and whenever we have special guests, and challenge them to, you can't do yourself. You need to be somebody else, and you're going to be a character. Because let's say you get, Rad Pro Wrestling is an attempt to give, Scott students before anyone else an opportunity to work, more opportunities to work.
Yeah.
And challenge them to try this new character, because let's say you get signed. They might be like, hey, we need your character to be this now. And you need to be able to think and have the wherewithal to change on the drop of a dime to be somebody different than what you're used to at every one of your other bookings. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They change it and they're like, hey, tonight you're going to be hypnotized into thinking you're a chicken. You better be the best goddamn chicken that you can be if they ask you that. So here's an opportunity for you to think outside the box at Rad Pro Rasslin. Whereas Ricky Smokes on the Indies is the Smoke Show. And as we said, the Indies, as well as NXT and Evolve on Tubi.
Yeah.
He's a fun one to commentate for. Very happy for him. But like in Rad Pro Wrestling, he's Anju. He's like a almost like an artist's rendering of a wrestler who's right now having an identity crisis, and he's always sad. Not just sad, but like emotional. In theory, he's like the first emo. Is what to become. And it's like, now that's very different from Ricky Smokes. But now you have to think on your toes, and how are you going to deliver that performance the 6 or 7 times a year you do it? Because at the drop of a dime in NXT, they might want you to do this.
Yeah.
So, what Scott's doing is for all of those performers, like, you got to learn to think outside the box. And this is going to be an opportunity for you to do it. I think that's a good thing to have.
Absolutely. When you look throughout your career, who are your biggest mentors, whether it's wrestling or commentating?
Wrestling, obviously. My trainer, Angel Ortiz, took care of me.
Nice.
Was very good to me. We still talk, not as often as we used to, but we still keep up with each other.
Nice.
Of course, Big Scott was always taking care of me in that sense. As far as people that I enjoyed watching throughout all the durations, you look at like, I'm trying to think who I have, like looking around. Obviously, you can see I based my career off of Psychosis from all those moves I do, but I loved everybody. That's the thing. I liked all the different flavors of wrestling, but Mick Foley.
Nice.
A lot. Mick Foley was always able to, again, a guy had 3 very distinct different characters. And he was able to make each one different. And again, so good on the microphone, so captivating. You never want to stop listening to him. So he was somebody that I think influenced me. The Flairs of the world, every promo that you would see with him. But then you'd see the work of, like, you get, again, I liked watching the guys, like I liked Buddy Landell. I liked, the Midnight Express. And you watch the Indies. I liked Larry Sweeney a lot. I liked, trying to just think. That's the thing. When you watch as much as me, it's hard to just pinpoint that one person, but there are the people like that stick with you. Nice. As far as commentary goes, oh God, Jim Ross, Michael Cole, Vince McMahon, he's crazy now, but like as far as just commentary goes, those guys, Coach Al Snow, D'Lo Brown on the Indies, Dave Prazak, Lenny Leonard, Eric Gargiulo and CZW. There's a lot. Obviously, Bryce on commentary. Leonard F. Shakarason, Joe Sposto. Love Joe. Joe would be a fun one for you too. I don't know if he does the podcast circles.
I'll reach out 100%.
A really good guy and has a lot of fun things to say. But I always love Joe Sposto. There's opportunities for me to commentate with Joe Sposto. Dan Champion's always trying to get me booked out in like 8 hours away in Pennsylvania. And I can't make that drive anymore. But Joe Sposto, aka Leonard F. Shakarason, loved his commentary. Loud and Noxious. Kaiju Big Battle fame who would come to Chikara, loved his commentary, loved listening to him. Those are the guys.
Nice. Troy, I'm curious. Off the Hop Rope doesn't happen anymore, but are you up to anything next? I know commentary, Limitless Wrestling, you're doing Rad Pro, a lot of different things. What's next for you?
What's next for me? Keeping with Rad, helping out and getting to, see that next generation of New England, New York, Northeast, and whoever else comes in between. I'm happy to be there, happy to help with promos and stuff. Again, those were my strengths. I will still be a part of Limitless as we enter year 11. I'm open to bookings. I'm not like actively writing up promoters anymore. You know what I mean? But with that said, if anyone's like, I like this commentary, reach out. I'm there on Twitter. I might not be in the new year trying to get rid of my social media, footprint, but ask around. Someone's got my number.
Yeah.
I'm open to more gigs, but I'm just not necessarily actively seeking more than the 2 regular ones I have. But nice. I'm open. I'm always open.
Well, Troy, I can't thank you enough for doing this. However, every interview of Best for Business ended the same. The day you decide it's all done in pro wrestling, which obviously isn't happening anytime soon, but the day you decide it's all done, what do you want Troy Nelson's legacy in pro wrestling to be?
I want his legacy, truth be told, as a friendly cautionary tale. Again, being honest with myself, I want kids that know me, to know that I got to do a lot of cool things, as I've mentioned. Worked with a lot of cool people, was given a lot of opportunities, but I want them to know that I could have gotten way more if I took care of myself. So I want my legacy to be, again, cautionary tale. Don't get lazy. Don't settle. Push yourself. Believe in yourself. And you, again, look at what all I did and know that was putting in the type of effort that I did. That's what I want my legacy to be, one of to do better. And I mean that in a nice way and not a negative way.
Yeah. Well, Troy, I can't thank you enough. And I can't thank you enough for everything in general. From me drawing that at 12 years old to me commentating a show with you to me having you on the pod. I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for me, especially all these years keeping in touch.
Absolutely. Who knows? Maybe Frankie gives me a call again. You and I'll do Fight Life again.
I'll definitely let him know. Thank you so much, Troy, for doing this.
No worries, Chris.
Thank you, Troy, for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.